I'm an American citizen. I was raised in Southern California, spent most of my adult life in Colorado, and that's where I went to university for journalism. I met my husband, and we've done a lot of traveling. And as a family, we've got a 10-year-old daughter now, but when she was 3 years old, we traveled to Mexico and ended up in this beautiful community of Chacala. Fell in love with it, and since then I've just kind of figured out how to make it work to stay here. It's been 7 years now that we've been in Chacala. Our daughter is fully bilingual, biliterate. Like I said, she's 10 years old now, so she's been in Mexico the vast majority of her life. She's really a Chacaleña or Mexicana. And I also am a writer. I do a lot of writing for my job, also just for fun. I've got a blog that I maintain, Mexpat Mama. I also do some writing for Mexico News Daily for fun on the side as freelance. We're appreciating what Mexico has to offer. Well, when we arrived, we knew some Spanish, but not a whole lot. Kind of like high school Spanish we both took. So obviously the language difference initially was tough. Just like not feeling a part of things or not feeling as connected to the community. That's changed over time as our Spanish has improved. And so now that's much less of a barrier, and we travel anywhere in the country and can get along just fine. I would say some of the challenges for us being from a culture that is just sort of like more trained on immediacy and customers always right and consumerism. It took, and it still continues to take, a lot of shedding of layers. I think both for me, I could probably speak for my husband as well, in terms of our level of expectations of when things need to happen and like immediacy and urgency and on time. And I'm not saying that this is not a criticism of Mexico in any way, shape or form. I think we have a lot to learn from Mexico in the way of just like, sometimes other things take higher priority than your immediate needs, and it's okay to just, let things happen when they need to happen. Adjusting to a different pace, a different sense of urgency has been probably a challenge for us sometimes, because it's just our conditioning where we're from, kind of that sense of urgency. And I've actually been really happy to kind of shed a lot of that and not live in that place of you must answer me now, you must respond to me right now. No, think about it for a minute. You don't need to respond right away. American citizens coming from a middle-class background, we have tremendous privilege coming into this country, a privilege that in the reverse, especially at a different economic level, people absolutely do not have, trying to immigrate into the United States or any place in the world. So for me to even say one complaint about bureaucracy of becoming a legal resident here is just honestly ludicrous. Because not that it wasn't, of course you have to jump through hoops, and when we did it 7 years ago, there were a lot more hoops to jump through than there are today. But the fact that we could come here and become legal residents, there's a process you go through. You have to go through it. It might take multiple trips to the immigration office. You might not have the right forms every time. You might be confused about the process, but it can be done. And you don't face the just sort of really rough times that you would potentially face going in the opposite direction. Well, depending on who's watching this, if it's other Americans or people from other countries that all they know about Mexico is the beach, which is fantastic. We live by the beach. But it's just such a small slice of what this country has to offer. And the more we travel into the interior towns, whether it's small villages or big historical cities, we're absolutely blown away every time. And every trip we make to a new place, we fall deeper in love with Mexico. The art, the culture, the food, just the vibrancy, the architecture, the history, everything about it is absolutely mind-boggling. And at least from where, we grew up in the United States, where everything is kind of new and sort of strip mauled and really stripped of a lot of history and indigenous history. Being in a country where, of course, it's not perfect here either, but I think the indigenous influence and the cultural influence is just so much stronger and more present here. You just feel a deeper sense of connection to the longer history of this country than I have felt in the United States, where a lot of things have been really whitewashed. I'm happy there's no Starbucks on every corner here in Mexico. I mean, some places, sure, you can find your Starbucks, but I'm really happy they're not here. Sorry, Starbucks.
Maya, ¿qué te parece esta carrera?
¿Qué?
¿Qué te parece la carrera?
La verdad es que sí me gustó mucho.
Sí.
Si lo tomas despacio y no tan rápido, sí puedes ir no sé. Bueno, me gustó mucho.
Gracias.